To address the recruitment tactics used by terrorist Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, though, is meeting with the UN Security Council on this Friday. Former UN Ambassador John Bolton joins us. Good evening, sir.
Glad to be with you.
Well, what are your thoughts about this UN report? 25,000 traveled from 100 countries to join ISIS and al-Qaeda.
Well, it's a stunning number, especially coming from this panel of UN experts that was put together to monitor the sanctions against al-Qaeda. You know, the UN has not exactly been in the forefront of the war against terror. So when you see these kinds of estimates, the figures, the size of the influx of foreign terrorists into ISIS and al-Qaeda in a very short period of time, that's really frightening. And it's not just the number, but as you mentioned, that they estimate they come from 100 countries, over half the UN's membership, which shows the breadth of recruiting, I think, particularly for ISIS, and the nature of this threat as a growing global threat.
I don't know how you possibly think that we're ahead of the game on this, or anyone does, you know, in any way. If you've got the fact that that ISIS holds Ramadi, that it's done nothing but gain territory from Fallujah to Mosul to now Ramadi and most of Anbar. Meanwhile, I've got 25,000 people from around the world. Those are the ones we can count from 100 nations. Then you look at the map of North Africa and you see where the terrorist group there, Boko Haram, is saying, how can anyone not see that this is way out of control?
Well, I think the only people who don't are probably working in the Obama White House these days. I think they're blinded by their ideology. But if anything, I think this report may understate the nature of the threat. It doesn't. The figures don't look to me to be entirely consistent with the estimates we've heard now, really going back almost a year, that thousands of U.S. and European citizens holding valid passports have gone to Iraq and Syria. So the numbers don't exactly jibe, but certainly they do reinforce the breadth of this, and I think it shows that fundamentally we have to appreciate this rise of the terrorist groups as reflecting an ideology, a radical Islamicist ideology that can appeal all over the world. This is not a movement or a terrorist organization that's picking up from economic deprivation in a particular place. This has to have, and I think this demonstrates, the appeal of ISIS and al-Qaeda and the other terrorist groups globally.
All right, June 30th is supposedly the deadline with this deal with Iran over nuclear weapons. It's supposed to be written and signed, sealed, delivered apparently by about June 30th. France says that it is no way will it be part of this deal if they don't have access to these military installations in Iran for inspections. The Ayatollah Khamenei says absolutely no, they're not going to let any inspectors into their military installations or have access to their scientists. So is this deal dead?
No, I don't think it's dead by any stretch of the imagination. I think President Obama is determined to sign it, and I think he's going to try and find a way to get between the French and the Ayatollahs. I mean, it is a fine irony, to say the least, that we're depending on a French socialist government to save us from a very bad deal. But that's it as of now. We may not see the deal signed by June 30th, but I'm willing to bet a substantial amount that the president will sign some deal.
But this is a deal with 6 nations and Iran. I mean, this is with Iran, 6 nations. It's not just President Obama trying to get the Republicans on Capitol Hill on board and some Democrats on board. I mean, don't they need all the nations to sign on to this? And if France says absolutely not without inspection of the military installations, I mean, how does it possibly move forward unless France all of a sudden changes its mind?
Well, remember, Russia and China are going to sign this deal in a heartbeat. I think Germany's right behind them. So the question is, will France really stand in the way? They've opposed other interim steps in this 2-year negotiating process under Obama and then given way at the last minute. And remember, France has been in this since 2003. They were one of the original negotiators. Their impetus is still to get a deal. I think that what we're going to see is Obama try and make concessions that satisfy the French, or at least allow them to come on board. But despite this rhetoric, I still believe that Obama will find a way to agree with the Ayatollahs.
Ambassador, thank you, sir.